focus on those desires, focus on what you want, and make sure that everything lines up. Welcome to Scorpio. Scorpio is the heavy-hitting sign of the zodiac. Fixed water, ice. So in Western astrology, Scorpio happens between the end of October and takes up the majority of the beginning of November before we get to Sagittarius. Festival is Halloween, All Souls Day. It is when the veil is thinnest between the realm of the living and the dead. Amor fati, which is the love of death. And death is what Scorpio is all about. Like, it is the powerhouse, the driving, the passion. It is living in the moment because we are moving past death. Game of Thrones, there is a thing where Arya Stark is always saying, like, what do we say to the god of death? Not today. And that's amor fati. Like, we live in the moment, we go for the moment, we don't take any moment for granted, and we do what we can. Love as we love and live as we live. And that kind of brings up passion, desire, wish. When I was first came up with the concept for this course, I got a list of each of what the 12 zodiac signs stood for, and Scorpio was I wish. The 9 of Cups realm. Like, this is like the wish card of the tarot, where like you find this card and your wish is going to come true. Like, it's this completion of the moment. Really, when we talk about it from a self-development standpoint, we're talking about cultivating desire. Do you have the desire to do what you need to do and where you need to go? And we can cultivate that desire through repetition, through constantly washing over those ideas and concepts and being like, all right, this is what I want to do. So I'm working on a course. I want to put out a course. I'm working on a book. I want to put out a book. And this is where you get people that recommend of like, write down your goal 100 times a day, do this, or 100 times in the morning, 100 times in the evening. And that's to, one, get you used to the concept, and two, get you acclimatized to how it's happening. Another thing you might hear is add in the how. So kind of a how, what, now. Like, especially when you're making commands of people or you're not asking questions. So like you're phrasing things as a question, but you're keeping your voice level at the end, so you're not actually asking it. So for instance, if you're asking your kids to empty the dishwasher, it would be like, can you quickly and quietly empty the dishwasher now? How do I want to do it? How do I want to do it? What do I want to do? And when do I want to do it? And you really kind of create that direct line to your subconscious. And that's how you start to get things done and start to really energize things. And you can do the same thing for your goal. Yes, I want to do that, but how do I want to do that? Or the genie trick wish, where you wish for something and you don't get what you want because you haven't thought through the how. You haven't gotten through that I want, King Midas. I want everything I touch to turn to gold. And then he touches his daughter and she turns to gold. Direct understanding and that passion. And that's where the passion of Scorpio comes in. Scorpio rules that nether region of your body. And as a result, it's associated with sex and death and excrement and all these difficult things. And it's a scorpion. It'll sting you. Right? There's the story of the frog and the scorpion. The frog is about to cross the river and the scorpion wants to go over too. And the scorpion says, hey, frog, I want to ride on your back. And the frog says, no, you'll sting me. And the scorpion says, like, no, I won't. No, I won't. Don't worry about it. And the frog thinks about it and says, what that, we're both going to drown. If you're going to sting me, don't sting me, right? And so they hop in the water, and they get halfway across. The scorpion stings them. They both drown in the water and die. And going down, the frog says, "Why did you do that?" And the scorpion says, "It's my nature." Scorpio is all about nature. You're at once driving towards your desires, but you're driving towards your desires in a way that's consistent with who you are as a person. What do you need to recognize for yourself where you are doing what you need to do and you are taking into account who you are and, when's your, and what you need to do prior to your expiry date, right? Amor fati, the love of death. Back to the Stoics again. We only know what's important in the context of death. You're here to enjoy life, and you're here to kind of go through the process. When we talk about death, it's great to talk about Hades and Persephone. Zeus, or Jupiter, has a daughter, Persephone, and his brother Hades wants to marry her. She falls in love and says, like, "Hey, we want to get together, we want to get married." This is Pluto in the planetary sense. But Demeter, or Ceres in the Roman or planetary sense, is not on board with it. She doesn't like that Pluto's god of the underworld, not super thrilled with the process, or anything. So Jupiter's kind of just like, "Hey, go ahead, go for it." And so Pluto comes in, swipes her up, runs her down to the underworld. Story goes is he gives her, she's hungry, he gives her one little piece of pomegranate, and that links her to the underworld, so she's always trapped. Meanwhile, Demeter, Ceres, Serial, loses it, ices over the entire planet, and is just like, this is how winter, this is the story of how winter happens, right? So, like, everything dies, everything's awful, everybody's starving. She goes to Zeus, Jupiter. All right, get her back. Jupiter's not like a super fan. Persephone and Pluto have a really equal relationship, and Persephone does a lot of the ruling in hell when it turns out, which is why, like, and they have a very, very loving monogamous relationship, like, especially in comparison to all the other gods. Zeus strikes a deal with Hera. Persephone is going to come up for some part of the year and then go back down for another part of the year and kind of rule in Hades, however she does. And that's the agreement, and that's how winter, and that's how winter happens in the story, ancient story of the Greeks, right? So Persephone goes back down into hell. What we can learn from that is that there is love and connection and energy, and we have to balance all the people that we work with. And so everybody works together and everybody has some agreement. Everything that has happened has already happened, but you have to find a way to enjoy it and a way to work through it. And that is where we get led to what our desire is. So our desire has to take in a lot of things into account. It has to take into account our goals, right? So, our vision, like, are we serving? Are we creating? Or that's our purpose, creation and serving. And then our vision. Our vision is like it's both like what is possible for us and what would like an idealized outcome be. So Elon Musk wants to create a colony of 1 million people on Mars. That's an idealized, that's like a big picture goal. So like the vision of that is bringing human life to Mars and making a second planet viable for the human species. as we create that vision and goal, we want to make sure that that is in line with our desires. You really have to think of like, what do you desire? What are your baser instincts that you're going to follow no matter what? And what are your goals? And that desire and wish portion is lining everything up so it works. And that's really where we kind of start to get into this conversation of like what Scorpio is and how we start to deliver on these ideas that are helping us grow and helping us move on to that next section in life. Kind of following a desire means kind of making new habits. And that is something. And so one of the things about wishing and desiring is you only really get one at a time. And that is easy to lose track of, especially when you're making progress and you go to someone, how can I make more progress? They're going to give you all sorts of wonderful ideas on things you can do and things you can focus on. But you have to go back and say, like, did I accomplish the thing that I was working on, right? If I died right now, could someone be like, oh, I can pick this up and run with it, right? You know, is it complete? Can someone read the book? Can someone take the course? Can someone, use the machine? Can someone understand the code or whatever you're creating? And, right, so focus, and this is where we come to that desire or wish, is to focus on one thing at a time. When we talk about the magic genie, right? And you rub the lamp and the genie says, your wish is my command. In the older versions of the story, you only get one wish. And you only get one wish because you can only work on one thing at a time. Even in the modern stories where you have 3 wishes, they only go through one wish at a time. And then that first wish is complete before they start another. You want to focus on how you want that wish to happen, how else you want that wish to happen, what that wish is, and when you want it. That is going to start to help you grow. And some wishes are going to take longer than others, right? And once you form a habit, there will be some sort of autopilot. Once you form a habit of doing something, once you form a habit of exercise, once you form a habit, you can start adding other things. But it needs to be that automatic habit, right? You have to, it has to become a part of your being before you move on to something else. And some things are just going to take longer to do that than others, right? So if you're, when I quit smoking, so if you're quitting smoking, it could take a year to really get over it. Like, it's a real addiction. There are both psychosomatic and physical addictions, things that you're working through. And a lot of it is you just do the thing. And the way I ended up quitting was I would just, I would just keep quitting on weekends, right? It took me a few times to actually quit. But the first time, I successfully quit for a period of time, I would just, go home on weekend and be like, all right, how long can I lie in bed and not have a cigarette, right? Or I would be like, can I go 2 hours without a cigarette? Can I whatever? And that was, it took a long time. And eventually I quit, and then I went back, and then I did some Pfizer pill, which was horrible and made me feel awful. And so, and it was really just taking the pill to make me feel horrible, to be like, oh man, I gotta quit because I'm gonna feel awful because I want to quit, so I'll take this pill. That continually showing up and continually trying and continually going through the process until you either create or break a habit, right? So most habits are going to be most habits you're going to start to like at least be on the path in 21 days or so. So if you do something for 21 days straight every day, you're going to really start to, 22, 23, 24 days in, you're going to start to be making progress. And so a lot of times you'll hear about 30-day challenges or 90-day challenges, right? A 90-day challenge is to really, really lock it in. But really at about the 2-month point, if you've done something every day, you have the habit. You're going to keep doing it naturally. And that's really, really important to get to that point before you add new things in. My most recent ad was to make sure that I write or edit so much per day. And that ends up being about 2 to 4 hours of work. And I also wanted to increase viewership of my Facebook Lives. But I tried to do this at the same time. So as I would start to work on marketing, the work that I did on my writing and my editing would go down. And so when you start something new and you notice that something else that's important to you is reducing, really stop and say, all right, which is more important, right? Because this is the second thing you started, it might be more important. That's just the reality of life. But usually it's going to be that first thing that you've made more progress on is more important. And so just drop the second thing and go back to the first one and say, all right, this needs more time. I need to work on this more before I can add something else, before something else changes, right? And so this is why a lot of times when we move, we can both make amazing progress and we can totally tank it at the same time, right? Because we lose our patterns. So if we have a lot of good patterns that are helping us, if we lose those, that's problematic. But if we have a lot of bad patterns that are hindering us, if we move, that's super helpful. And so, and this is why you hear you can't move away from your problems because your problems follow you, right? So if you have good habits, you really want to engender and make sure those keep working for you. If you have bad habits, you want to start tackling them one at a time, right? Jordan Peterson says, make your bed. It's a good example, right? So I don't think if you're a slob and you can find ways of making money as a slob, you can hire somebody to clean your house and make your bed for you, right? This is not something that's super duper important. But if it's something you want to work on, that's a thing. Make your bed every day. I try to make my bed every day. I'm not religious about it like Mel Robbins or Jordan Peterson. I'm just let me meet with success and then I will move on from there, right? Right? Abraham Hicks says, focus on what makes you feel good and the rest will start to fall into place. And that's important. Really focus on those desires. Focus on what you want and make sure that everything lines up. And as you line things up, things are going to get easier for you and you'll be able to rule your situation just like Persephone gets to rule hell. That's my story on Scorpio. And I look forward to continuing this conversation